Well, hello everybody. I'm so glad you joined into the Ark today. The testimonies have been incredible, and the next person that's on my couch this week, she is an amazing artist, writing a book, works for the Ark. She is a singer-songwriter. She's the most incredible person I've ever met in my entire life, and she's related to me, so that gives me an extra bonus. So, you know, you are going to be blessed today because, you know, she's just a normal person like all the rest of us, has gone through many challenges and battles in life, but God has brought her through so much. And I'm so proud to introduce Roxanne Smith today. Well, Roxanne, it's so good to have you on the show today. I know it's never an easy thing, but you and me have traveled together. We have done so much together. We have worshiped together. We have dug ditches together. We've made churches together. We've done so much together.
A lot.
A lot together. And I've been at your wedding with Phil, and we have just been so blessed, the two of us together. So I'm super excited to hear about what you have, what you're going to bring today.
Well, I'm really thrilled that you asked me to come and to be interviewed today. It's been a while since I've given an interview or a testimony, and I think it's time. So
I'm glad it's with me.
I'm glad it's with you. And you are right. We have done a lot of traveling together, singing together, and everything you mentioned. And we are so blessed that we are relatives, we are cousins, and we have the faith that we have. So I'm again even double thrilled that you've asked me to do this.
Well, we didn't actually know that we were related, and I was on tour in Texas, and I said to Roxanne, do you want to come on tour? And she's like, yeah, sure. So she got on the bus and we got talking, and I think at that point we've done about 4 tours at that point. Mm-hmm. And everybody kept saying, you guys look so much alike. And I'm thinking, she's so little and I'm so big, how can we be so much alike? And so, but we all have high cheekbones. And
yeah.
Then she got talking about her Aunt Nettie? No, your grandmother.
My grandmother.
Grandmother Nettie. And I was like, just a minute, there's not too many Nettie Frees in Campbellford, and I know I'm related to them also. So that's how we kind of found out that we were related, and I love singing with her because there's nothing better than family harmony.
It's so true. And from the moment that I met you, Cheryl, before I even knew you were my cousin, I was drawn to you, and we started doing some concerts together, and as you said, we went on tours. And so we were flabbergasted. We found we were actually related. But that's how God works sometimes.
So good.
It's so good, yeah.
I remember my mom saying, I'm so glad you met this Roxanne girl, you know, like, I don't want you touring by yourself, because you know what it's like. You tour by yourself, and then you meet up with the group wherever you are, right? And then you kind of go with it from there. So anyway, she was overjoyed when you came on board. So
wow,
yeah.
I'll tell you. And you, Cheryl, when she came into my life, I don't know, you hadn't been a Christian as long as I had been, but you were a mentor to me too, and especially at that time of my life, and encouraged me and strengthened me in the Lord. So God knew the perfect timing. Again, it was just incredible. So
it was God's perfect timing, but I was calling you to write songs.
Yes.
So I was like, I know she's a singer-songwriter, and I'm a singer, but not so good songwriter. And so I was like, I'm going to give her a call. You know, my husband's like, call Roxanne. And, you know, so it's just the hand of God that have moved in all those years with you and me.
Yeah, it's incredible. When you say that now, that just brings a memory to mind is the day that you called me to go on tour. And I was praying and fasting for direction in my life, and I was single at the time and unsure of what I was supposed to do. And Cheryl reached out and called, and I had laid a fleece before the Lord, and I had said, Lord, I don't know what to do with my life. Please have someone basically tell me, because I am so confused, I don't know. And Cheryl called me that day, and she said, hey, do you want to go to Trinidad with me? And I was just floored. She was the first person who called, and the second person who called was my mom. So I know those two, you and my mother, both encouraged me that day to get out there and sing again.
We have been on so many tours together.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember hopefully we'll get to everything that you want to say today. I was pulling up memories for me as well. And we were in Texas and your mom got very sick.
Yes.
And I went on with the tour, because when you're on tour, you have to keep going.
Yes.
And you went home.
Yes.
You came home for your mom.
Yes, she had a heart attack, and I was floored because we were, I don't know, halfway through our tour, and I'm not a person who likes to fly, but I flew home to be with her. And
by yourself?
By myself. And then I came back and rejoined you after I had Mom settled. She had to have a few tests and whatnot. She passed away a few years later after that, but I was given time with her, precious time before she passed. And but I was able to come back and
do the tour. And you wrote a song. You wrote a song about your mom.
I did. I wrote a song called Golden Years, and it talks about, my mom was always saying, they say the golden years are fun. Well, I don't think they're so much fun.
No, they're tough. They're hard.
Yeah, and I was thinking one day after she passed, I thought, you know, the golden years really are when we're walking the streets of gold in heaven. And my mom is there, and she's rejoicing with your mom. And you know, and so I wrote this song, and I haven't sang that song in a long time, Cheryl, but that was one song that came out of that.
It was a beautiful song. You
well,
know, you've written so many songs that I've seen you sing in Trinidad when they were raising the cross.
Oh, It Was Your Cross.
It Was Your
yes.
Cross. Beautiful, powerful song.
Thank you.
She is such a beautiful, powerful singer-songwriter. No matter what she does in music, it blows me away because she's just so talented. And like now you're thinking of writing a book, or you're in the middle of writing a book.
I actually, yeah, and thank you, first of all. Thank you for those compliments. But I think, Cheryl, it was an honor to sing with you. You're very talented and a blessing to me. But I've actually finished the book. I just have to send it to the publisher and get things going. So
you giving us a snippet about it, or what's it on?
Yeah, I will. You know, if I can go back in time too,
Yes.
maybe then I can, you know, kind of let you know what the book is about, because it's about my testimony. So.
Well, tell us a little bit about it yourself. Like, let's not talk about you and me. Let's talk about you for a while.
I like talking about you. We had some fun times. And we
did.
could talk about things that were really funny on our trip too, but maybe we'll wait till later for that one. So basically, maybe I can share my testimony in a nutshell, and I'll go into point form because we only have so much time, but I was raised in a Christian home, and my mother was very strong in the Lord, but my father was a weekend alcoholic. And I was raised in a very confused state. I'll have to share it like that way. I don't know how else to say it. As a young child, I was subjected to a lot of depression and anxiety because my mom had it with my dad, and the whole house really went through a lot of it. So in my book, I start out talking about that. As a child, I mean, my dad, I love my dad, and he was wonderful. But he, you know, alcohol is something, when it takes hold of you and your mind, it can make you do crazy things. And so there was a lot of scary nights and a lot of times where I clung to my mother because she was, you know, it was pretty intense. And there was some acts of violence, but you know, back in those days too, things were different. And so, you know, when I say acts of violence, I don't mean my dad didn't strike out at us or anything like that, but alcohol just made him a whole different person. And so he was verbally abusive, and there was a lot of chaos. And so anyways, just to skip over that. So as a child, I went to church. My mom took me. My dad sometimes came. But I want to tell you a little bit about myself too, and Cheryl knows this. I'm a bit of a comedian, but I think it has to do with the fact that I have attention deficit disorder, and it started with, it's in my DNA, and it's not a sickness or an illness. I think some people think it might be, but it's actually just part of who I am, who God created me to be. And I take it as a blessing now because it has made me quite creative, and I think different thoughts maybe than some other people. But so I had trouble in school because I wasn't getting my sleep at night with my dad, keeping us up, and there was fights through the week. And so anyways, I tried as a young child to try to focus, and it was very hard. And anyone who has ADD knows that it's very hard to focus on a lot of things, especially if there's a lot of things going on in one room. It's very hard.
To stay focused.
To stay focused. And you do get better. It does get better with age, thankfully. But when I was young, I would go to church and I would listen, but I really wasn't listening. But I want to tell you about the most marvelous miracle in my life was when the Holy Spirit got a hold of my life as a little girl. I'm sitting in the pew with my mom and dad, and it was wonderful that my dad was with me through that night. And I was sitting there, and I was probably 7 or 8 years old, and I wasn't really, I don't know, Mom had given me something to draw to keep me quiet, I guess, beside her. You know, the mothers in churches will give their kids things to do.
Bring the wooden spoon.
And you know what? My little ear caught attention to what the minister was saying. And it was Reverend Weller, and he was at the Kingston Gospel Temple. And my little ear focused all of a sudden into something that I focused, and that's what ADD does. You focus into things you want to do or want to listen to. And I focused into what he was saying. And he was talking about sin in my life, in all of our lives, not just mine, but I was absorbing what he was saying and how that Christ came to die for me. And as a little child, I understood that in my own little way. And it's hard for me to talk about because I still can remember that feeling, because I was so drawn in with what Pastor Weller was saying that I got up from my pew. He gave an altar call, and I asked my mom if I could go to the front. I didn't even know what I was doing. And I didn't walk down, I ran down to the front of that church.
Wow.
And I gave my little heart to Jesus. And for those maybe you're listening don't understand what even that term means, it's a recognition of who Jesus is. And I knew that the Holy Spirit, who's a comforter and a friend, was speaking to my heart and telling me who Jesus was.
So good, Roxanne.
Yeah, and I gave my heart to the Lord. And I remember I was so sincere. And the odd part is, being ADD, it's hard to focus. In school, I had a really hard time listening to the teacher. I didn't listen very well. But I could also pass my grades with excellence, which was unusual. Some part of me was listening, I guess. But, you know, a little child listening to a pastor talk about the Lord.
You know God has a call on your life when that happens.
And my mom, before I was even born, told me, because she had so much trouble with Dad, she had prayed to the Lord when she finally had me, or was pregnant with me. She said, God, please use this child for your honor and glory. I give this child to you. Because her past, she had given her life to the Lord, and she wanted me to be used in some way. Anyway, just to go past all of that. So I went to church and I started singing in the choir in the church, a different background than you had, because I had my mom was there, you know, forcing me. I always say forcing me, but she wanted me to sing because she did hear that I had a voice to sing. And so she was behind me, and my dad too. Eventually, my dad gave his heart to the Lord and stopped drinking. But yeah, and I could tell you lots of stuff in between, pretty hard days. My dad used to be a hockey player, and a very, very well-known one. He played for Team Canada in 48 and 49, played in Scotland, Ireland, England, Finland. He was all over. So he was a hard-working man, and he always made sure the house, we were all provided for. But it was hard for him to give up drinking, but he did. And eventually, long story short, I ended up going out and singing for many years with groups and.
Yeah, you've recorded. The both of us have been on Huntley Street. You were on Huntley Street when you were a young girl.
Yes, the Grand Ole Opry. Actually, at 16, I was singing on. I didn't even listen to country music, but we were booked on the Grand Ole Opry.
Did you sing country then, or were
it
you
was
singing
country gospel?
Okay.
It was a little show they had for country gospel artists to come in, but regular artists were there at the same time too, and we got up and sang, and I had no idea. So everybody laughed at me afterwards because I was like, "You don't know what the Grand Ole Opry is?" No. So I did have that experience, but. Passing over to get where, you asked me that question about, how it all began. So I feel like my message and my testimony for the Lord really is for the church, for those who have fallen in grace and fallen from grace, I should say, and who have known the Lord like I did as a child or as a teenager or even as an adult, and fell away from the Lord and sinned, and then felt like they couldn't come back to the Lord because their sin was so great, their mess was so big. Well, that was my story before I met you. I had fallen from grace big time. I had married. I had started to have children. We were singing all the time, gospel music. We were on the road all over in the Masters. That was the name of our group. Then we had the Revised Edition, and we were many churches from the time I was a young girl. And I married a good man, and we started to have children, had a son, and then I had a daughter. And before she was born, and that's another thing that I'm writing in my book, so I don't have time to share it, but I almost died before I had her. I was pregnant with her, didn't know it, and a cyst had ruptured in my belly, and I had hemorrhaged quite a bit and rushed into the OR. It was a Christian doctor that was there, and he just said, "Hello, I recognize you." And I said, "You do?" I'd never seen this man before in my life. He said, "Yes, I was just at your concert."
That's always the worst, right?
It's like, and there was so much going on in my head at that time. And they just told me I was pregnant, and I was crying and weeping. And he said, "Don't you worry. We're praying, and we're gonna save your baby." Because I had cried out, "Oh Lord, please save this baby." Anyways, I came out of that surgery. I carried my daughter, who now has 6 children of her own.
She's got a whole baseball field going on there.
She does. And beautiful Christian family. She married a wonderful young man. And anyhow, her life was meant to be.
Yes.
And I had cried out just before I went into surgery, "Lord, please save my baby. And save me." I didn't know I was at death's door, but after the surgery they told me I was 1 hour away, because I had passed out and everything. 1 hour away from leaving this earth.
Wow.
So God heard my prayer.
God wasn't done with you.
He was not done with me at all.
No.
And so I went through all that, but I had postpartum depression, which back then they did not know what it was. It was more of a
hormone imbalance.
And they did not know what it was. And my fall from grace came shortly after that. And just to put it in a nutshell, but you know what? For years I didn't talk about it. I was ashamed. And I didn't want to hurt anyone in the church either. I didn't want my sin to mess anybody else up. But you know what? The truth is the truth. And I believe that God has called us to speak the truth. And the truth of the matter was the depression got a hold of me, and I left my husband. And I was a mess for a very long time. But God, and He did not give up on me. So, we did get back together, but there was so much damage done. And the enemy, and when I say enemy, because again, there's some people maybe listening and they don't know what I'm talking about. The enemy of my soul, of all of our souls, is Satan. And I believe he messed up a lot of things, and I wasn't on to him. I wasn't on to him, Cheryl. I wasn't back then. I should have prayed through, and I should have done so many things that I didn't do. Now I'm wise.
Sometimes it takes age to get the wisdom.
Oh.
When you look back and say, if I only knew back then.
Yeah, and that's basically it. Age and a stubbornness that I had in my heart. A lot of hurt from my father that was never healed. And, you know, that period of my life is one of sorrow. Now turn to joy, mind you, because I know that God healed my family, healed me. And I had some really rough moments. But for those who have fallen into the church, and maybe you're listening to the sound of my voice, and maybe you've been in the same position and you were raised like me, and you tried to be so perfect that you didn't want to make one mistake, and then you blew it. And that was me, and maybe that's you. Well, I can tell you that God does not ever take his wonderful call on your life off, and he remembers the day that you gave your life to him. And because the Lord really brought me up, and he there's so much to tell that I can't even get it out in a short period of time. But I had some troubles after that. I did end up marrying again, and I was married for many, many years. And unfortunately, in my book, I go into a little bit more detail, but this time the tables were turned and my husband left me. And I was so broken. And I was thinking today if it was all right if I just read an excerpt out of the book that's going to come, because I just want to show you how God does not forget about you even when you're so far gone. So in December 1st of 2003, I was devastated. And I had 3 kids at this point. And I wrote this down on my journal. I said, many thoughts are floating through my mind tonight. The man I met and fell in love with has disappeared. Yet I still love the one that is still here now. And I'm wounded deeply, hurt, and I'm feeling betrayed. The old version of my husband would never have hurt me like this. So how do I go on? I've lost my dad. He passed away. My daughter's left home. My son's left home. And I feel my daughter hates me. And I feel so alone. Is this the price that we pay as Christians for putting God first? Or have I caused this myself? I hope it's the first thing. For if this is what I must do for the cause of Christ, I will always put Christ first. First of all, I want to say, and I don't like crying. I'd rather laugh than cry. People know that about me. My daughter did not hate me, but she was going through something that made me feel that way. But also, in my innocence, I guess, I had made a decision that I was not going to leave Christ. Never again. I never was going to do that. And I also realized at that time that I also needed to be accountable for things that I wasn't being accountable for. I was actually saying, I need to be accountable in my heart, in my own way. Because I said, if it's not the first thing, then the second thing was it was my fault. And so I had to take accountability, I'll say that again, accountability for my sin, even in a good marriage that I thought I had done no wrong. And I realized there was a lot I had done wrong. So you think I'd be able to go on with the Lord? Well, I stumbled for a while, and then I got back up again. And that's when I wrote the song, Second Chance. I wrote the song, Second Chance, actually just prior to this. And that's what the title of my book is, Did I See You in My Shadow? It's a song that I wrote about being at the very bottom You know those bathroom floor moments when you've just had all you can take?
Just hit the floor.
I hit the floor. And I'd love to say, you know, life was really easy. It wasn't. But I trusted God. I did trust God throughout all my messes. And I laid my music down for several years, and I said, I'm not going to sing anymore. And I did start singing again shortly after this time period, and that's when you called me. And that was the moment. I had prayed and laid a fleece down before the Lord. I said, I don't know what to do with my life. And you called me. And then I started touring, and we went to Trinidad, to Texas, Tobago.
Yeah. We went quite a few places at that point.
To Bermuda. Was like, wow.
We've everybody has a testimony. I don't think that we could ever, everybody's been through something in their life, right? But I think the difference between you and me and everybody else who has kind of sat on this couch over the last few months, we have the Lord. That's the only thing that holds, that's the piece that holds everybody together. Because without God, how do you do this world?
That's right.
How do you do it?
Something that came to me when I was reading this morning and refreshing my memory is that we can be victimized, but we are not victims.
There's a song on that. I am no longer a victim.
I didn't even know that. It's a
great song.
And so in my songwriting, there's a lot of this that comes out. We are not victims. And victim mentality, I believe, is kind of, well, I'm going to say it just the way I feel it. I feel like the enemy gets a hold of our mind and makes us feel like, you know, we deserved it, or we are never going to get better, or our life's never going to change. And I probably was back there in my thoughts many times. But I thought I was weak, but in God I found out I was strong, because once I realized that in God's strength I could go on and I could face people. It doesn't matter what people think, it matters what He thinks. And He never took His blessing or His Holy Spirit off my life. I know that because He continued to open up doors. And even through my darkest moments when I fell backwards, He would like lift me up again. And I fell backwards many times. And then He was like, no, you're going forward. You don't go through some of this stuff.
No.
Divorce is like death. You don't go through some of this stuff and you don't come out of it. You do. You do get wounded and you do get hurt. But God, you know what? Today I think about all the blessings He's given me. If I had listened to the enemy's voice and stayed down on the floor, maybe I wouldn't be here today.
Yeah, you don't know.
No, I don't know, but I do know that I have a call in my life, especially to reach people like myself who have fallen more than once, who have succumbed to that need to be loved. And that's basically where my fall from grace came from. I just wanted to be loved. And I've learned too not to blame. There's a lot of people blame, it was that guy's fault, it was my husband's fault, or it was my wife's fault. Let's face it, the accountability comes to us.
It's true.
And I had to come to a point, and I came to it basically in that period of time when I was singing with you, that, you know what, I don't blame my ex-husband anymore. I don't blame him. I actually have nothing but love in my heart. And for anyone that I had an involvement of any, maybe a disagreement or anything in my life that happened after that point, I realized that we need to just forgive, and that's the whole thing. It's all about forgiveness. That's the whole story of Christ is about forgiveness.
It is. You know, just to be able to forgive Christ for what we've done, or the person that has hurt us. You know, I remember one of the ladies that were on, she always said to me, we were talking about hurts, and she said, hurt is like a sack of rocks on your back. And then you pick that not hurting rock up, and then you throw it in your backpack.
Yeah.
And then the next day you pick up another hurting rock, and you throw that because you don't want to forgive them and lay it down.
Yeah.
You just keep carrying it around, and it gets heavier and heavier and heavier. And but that's the grace of God. to forgive.
Oh, and once that forgiveness came, once I realized I'm not a victim, I forgive my father, I forgive anyone in my life. And you know, my story, again, there was so much in between, left out, between then and now. But I realized that's the power in forgiveness and loving people. Again, you might have somebody that will never ever forgive you for something you said. I know I already have people like that probably don't forgive me, but it's okay because I've given it to God. It's not my problem anymore. It is His.
That's right.
I love the fact that my life is a journey, Cheryl. I didn't say that for many years because I have struggled with depression. I mean, it goes along with the territory of divorce. But I've struggled, but I know that God has called me to this time to be able to keep touring and singing and writing, and I've got another album coming out and writing this book, which was hard. It was very therapeutic, but hard. And it comes to this point right now too, Cheryl, where you and I sometimes we're joined at the hip because we share so much together as cousins and as Christians in the Lord. We've got a great work to do for the Lord. We're both, involved with
But He takes us away from each other too sometimes.
Oh, He does. Yes.
So we've had times where we've done our own ministries and done our own thing, and then God brings us back together. And we were away from each other for a while doing our own thing, and then all of a sudden God just brought us back together, but again. And now you're working for the Ark
of God Canada, yes. I mean, even in the Bible, the disciples, they would go apart from one another and then get back together. No, and that's the way it's been with you. We've grown a lot. Again, my life, I just look at my life. I get to sing with you. I get to sing with other people in my life. My husband. I found a wonderful, good man that, I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed. I mean, I don't know, other than it's just been God's anointing on my life from that time that I was a young girl that I went to the front of the church. He said, Roxanne, you're mine.
That's so good.
And that's why I say it doesn't matter. So you may think you're too far gone. Let me be the lesson. You're never too far gone. And the fact that my life was always focused on Christ, even in my worst, rebellious, awful, disgusting times of my life. I don't like to think about those times. And we shouldn't really think too much about them because God forgives. And it's under His feet what we've done. We don't live in the past anymore. We live in the future.
And I think that's one of the biggest things. A lot of people make the mistake. They always say, it's God that did this to me. It's God that did this to me. But it's not. It's the enemy that has done this to you. So many people have said, oh man, God is a mad God, a bad God. I was like, yeah, no, God is a loving God. So He's restored your life. Brought you like a complete 180.
180 turn.
Singing for the Lord, touring, working, doing Gospel Fest, July the 13th.
That's right.
And connecting with Ark of Canada.
Oh, that was a miracle. That's God knows what He's doing. I wasn't even looking to be involved with the Ark of God Canada, but the opportunity came and the call came, and I knew that the Lord was putting me into a whole different cycle, different season. And different things have happened. Like I found another cousin on the other side of the family who I'm very close to now, same as Cheryl. It's like I've got two angels beside me sometimes that has lifted me up, and a wonderful home life, I've often said of myself, and I think we're all created differently, but I was created as a realist in the sense that I believe that things are, they are, right? But I've had to change my way on that. I was born that way, I think, because that's not faith. Faith is about the things that aren't seen that we have to believe in.
That's true.
So, wow, can you imagine, I don't know, like the tug of war, people praying for me over the years, because I've had my way of thinking things, and then I've had God's way. God's way won and has won. But it's a continual struggle. Every day I have to pray. I say, God, I give you this day. Please take away my stubborn attitude. Take away all the things that want to get to me, want to consume me, and let me live for you.
And that's it. That's it, everybody. That's the bottom line. You know, we just need to live for the Lord. So, Roxanne, thank you for coming on today.
Oh, thank you.
I know you and me can talk for like 100 years. You know, the time goes so quickly. But God can take anybody and any situation and turn it all out for good. I love that He takes us from ashes to beauty. I love that He takes the worst of our lives and turns the whole world around and makes us who we are today.
That's right.
So I'm looking forward to the many things that you and me are going to do for Ark of Canada this year.
Oh, I'm very excited.
Gospel Fest coming up, and Roxanne does Gospel Fest also. She's the person who started everything and saw the vision of being in Campbellford doing Gospel Fest. She's got quite a few artists coming in there. It's on a Saturday. Ark of God is going to be there also, and she will be on tour with us, going and doing the tent meetings and the revival meetings. So this is going to be your first year of doing the revival meetings with us, and it is going to be amazing. She's the best artist that I could ever work with, and she plays piano like none other. So you know what? Please don't miss the tent meetings. Please go online and check where we're going to be, because I wouldn't want to miss it. You're not going to miss it. We're going to be there together. There's going to be healing ministries. I'm just so excited about what God has for this ministry and each and every person that hears our voice today. So Roxanne, thank you again so much for coming. I so appreciate you. Love you.
I love you too. And you know, you're so kind, very kind. And enough can't be said about you. I tell you, if you hadn't come into my life in that period of time, I don't know, Cheryl, you obeyed the call of Christ. You reached out and you called me. And what a blessing then to find that we're related.
And that's what it's all about. It's God connecting everybody. So have a blessed night. Thank you for joining us. God bless you all.
Thank you.